Shooting it raw?
Yes. Shooting it raw. That is a sweet portrait. So it's a professional looking portrait. You're in a studio of some sort. Your chin is on your hand. Your hair, like your hair
It's
is this
purple.
beautiful, yeah, violet, brown, purple. Yeah, it's nice. It's really nice.
Thanks.
And did you get the hair done for the photo shoot or?
No, I just really like purple hair. It just doesn't stay very long, so it's hard to
Right,
keep
got
it
it.
up.
Right now you don't have purple hair.
No, right now I think it's almost my natural color. All the colors run out of it.
Okay, amazing. The background is this very ash tan color. There's a shadow that could be from a chair or something behind you. You're wearing a nice black sweater with stars. Your knees are up, so it's a very kind of. I mean, it's a strange pose to put your hand on your chin on your hand like that, but you're looking right at the camera. You have beautiful eyes. Look at that.
Thanks.
Very nice. Okay, so the title of this photo is Headshot for Podcasts.
Yeah. So that's like the one that I use that for everything. It's also the cover picture for my book I released last year, Embracing Me. And I'm not in a studio. I'm actually at one of my clients' houses because
Nice.
I'm also a personal trainer.
What? Okay.
And she does photography, but she's never actually done like portraits of people before. She usually does landscapes and animals, that kind of thing. And I was like, hey, can you do this for me? She's like, sure, I'll try. And it turned out beautifully.
The light is very pretty.
Yeah, we went around her house in different lights, and she was opening curtains and closing curtains and moving the chair. I think she was having a lot of fun with it. I was having fun with it too. And then
Sure.
we tried a few different poses, and the leg up with the hand thing, like you were saying, was for the book. I just thought, because the book is Embracing Me and it's about like loving yourself, so I'm trying to like keep myself all like in.
Mm-hmm. Okay, your book. Okay, fantastic. Your first book?
No, that's maybe number 5.
Okay.
It's my third nonfiction.
Okay. Okay, so my background is creative writing, which I got at Concordia in Montreal. So why don't you talk to us about your how you landed as an author?
Yeah, so I've been writing my whole life. I used to write like a newspaper for my house about what show I was watching and make
For
my
your
mom read it.
house?
Yeah, I'd make my mom read it. And my aunt, if she was over, my grandma.
Nice.
Yeah, it was nothing real special, but it was special to me.
For sure.
And I'd write like little skits and plays and make my cousin act them out with me.
Nice.
So I've always liked writing. And then as a teenager, I would write a lot of poetry and use that as my coping mechanism for my depression. And so my very first book, I released it in 2017.
Mm-hmm.
And that was just all the poems that I'd written as a teenager, because I didn't want to throw them out, but I didn't want to leave them in my basement collecting dust.
Right.
So I wanted to do something with them.
Wow.
So that's what I did. After I published that first book, I'm like, oh, I like this. This is great. I'm going to do it again.
Nice.
And again and again and again and again.
Okay, so your most recent title is called, okay, what's it called again? Please remind me.
Well, my most recent nonfiction, which the one we were talking about, is called Embracing Me.
Embracing Me. Okay, so I'm mostly a nonfiction writer. I'm essentially a nonfiction writer. So what walk us through this book? Like, what, if somebody who's listening, you want to inspire a listener to kind of go out and get this book. Why did you write this book?
To help other people feel not alone when they're dealing with their mental illness. So it talks about my journey with depression, but more importantly, it talks about how I came to terms with it. So I like to say, I have depression. Depression doesn't have me. And that's like my favorite saying about it now, because at first it feels like this big flaw, like something is wrong with me. Like there's this thing I need to hide, this big old illness that needs to be hidden away, locked in a closet. And it doesn't. It's just a piece of who I am. It doesn't rule me. But it took time to come to that. And so I wanted to share that with other people and share what coping strategies I had used, and shared that if you want to go to therapy, that's okay. If you want to take medication, that's okay. You got to do what works for you.
Yep.
And then on the flip side of that, I wanted people who are maybe they're not dealing with a mental illness themselves, but a family member is, and they want to understand them more. So this book can kind of show them what their family member might be thinking or
Mm.
feeling, and how your language to them can either hurt them or help them.
Things seem to be improving over time, right? So especially now, there is a consciousness around mental health, treating mental health. Of course, you're going to run into people who are just kind of dumb and have stupid ideas, but I'd be really surprised and shocked if I'm surprised and shocked when somebody doesn't just go like, meh, okay, yeah, mental health issues, whatever.
Yeah, you're right. It has become more discussed and more aware about the fact that it's real. But there's still this big disconnect between having it and getting proper support for it.
Okay.
Now, I don't know how it's been in Hong Kong or in other parts of Canada, since we're both Canadian, but here in the region I live, it is hard to get appropriate mental health care
Okay.
because it's not funded the same way as our physical care. And even chronic illnesses, physical chronic illnesses are also a hard one to get proper care for. If it's not an immediate or visible illness, then it's not taken as seriously by our healthcare professionals.
Mm.
You don't get to the psychiatrist as quickly as you should. You don't, and I mean, with medication, it takes time to find the right one and the right dosage
Yep.
as well. So, I mean, that's a struggle all on its own. But to get the
Yep.
therapy side of things, it's not an easy process. If you do manage to get a referral, you're on a wait list for who knows how long. If you are able to pay for it, that's great. But most insurances don't cover enough for more than a couple of sessions, and a couple of sessions
Mm-hmm.
don't do you much. So
Mm-hmm.
you're right. There's a lot more awareness. I think a lot more people are okay with the fact that it's around, but there's still this big lack of real proper support for it.
Mm-hmm. So the podcast has had a few counselors, a few clinicians, a few therapists, because the podcast reflects what my interest is in. So when you said, "Oh, it takes a while to figure out what your treatment modality or approach is," like for some people it might just be therapy, and for some people it might be medication.
Yeah.
Yeah, for me, the therapy was kind of like, okay, well, you seem to be okay, but everything that's happening is just physiological. So for me, it just happens to be medication. Okay. So how does your book wrap around that? Like, how does your book approach that?
So the book, because it's nonfiction, it's my story. So
Okay.
I'm not a therapist. I have worked in social services. I have taken oodles of psychology classes in college, university. So I do have a bit of a background, and I do put some research into the book. But I like to preface by saying, it's all from a personal perspective,
Which is important.
but yeah. And so the book talks about, like, there's an entire chapter on therapy and an entire chapter on medication. Because for some people, there is a stigma around one or the other or
Mm-hmm.
both, where it's, if I admit, and this was one of my biggest issues, if I admit that I have this mental illness, that means I am a failure at life. That's obviously not
Yeah.
true. This is, like I said, this is how I was
Yeah.
processing things. I'm a failure at life because I see myself as a horrible person, or that I shouldn't be
Mm-hmm.
here. And if I reach out for help, I'm admitting that I am not perfect. Nobody is perfect, but I have a perfectionist complex.
Okay.
And so the one chapter around therapy talks about how it came to be that it came to a point where I had to go and talk to a therapist because I had made a plan to end my life. And I
Oh
was
wow.
like, ooh, there's a whole plan here, and it's a pretty easy to do
Oh
plan.
wow.
And yep, I got to go talk to somebody. And so it talks about how you can give yourself permission to do this, because I think that a big problem is that Many people are like me. They don't want to admit that there is a problem. And that goes for people having heart attacks
Mhm.
too. They don't, a lot of times people go, oh, no, I'm fine. Meanwhile, they're in the middle of a heart attack. So this isn't just mental health that this happens to. It happens with a lot of different illnesses or diseases. And we have to give ourselves permission to go and seek help when we need it, whether it's for a heart attack or for our mental health. And then on the medication side, I approach it kind of like how you were talking about, where it's like, is this a physiological thing? Will medication kind of fix what is going on? Will it give me the right amount of hormones that I need or whatever? Because for some people, that's what's needed. And that is one of the things that helped me. So I did the combination of both medication and therapy, because without the medication, I wasn't going to absorb the therapy as much as I could with it. And same goes for my kid. He's been to therapy many years, and when he wasn't taking medication or wasn't on the right medication, it was a lot harder for his therapist to get across the information to him. Whereas now that he is on the right stuff, they're cruising through their therapy sessions, and the time between sessions is much longer than before. So yeah, you said it before, you have to do what works for you is basically the bottom line. If you need both, that's fine. If you need one or the other, that's fine. Like you have to figure it out. You just got to play with it. All these different tools.
So once again, so the listener will have the title of your book in their heads. What is it again, please?
Embracing Me.
Is there a subtitle, or is it just Embracing Me?
Nope. Just Embracing Me.
Fantastic. Would you like to move on to the next photo?
Sure.
Unless you want to add something else.
We're good. I can't remember what the next photo is. So tell me what I sent you.
So is life really a gift? Really? Can you make every second count? That's the whole point of the podcast. So if you like what you've seen and you're inspired, because that really is my mission, then please give it a like, subscribe, and share.
Shooting it raw?
Yes, shooting it raw.